Hello, everybody. My name is Rex White. I am an entrepreneur in the food and the well, Cajun food in particular, Creole Cajun food space. I've developed a number of restaurants in Charlotte, North Carolina, and also in Arizona, and have a cookbook. I also have six different brands. I have an online store that sells seasonings and sauces, and I got my start by default during COVID, being laid off and trying to figure out what I was going to do at 48 years old. And so that kind of gets me here. Um, I got almost 6 years of complete focus in this space. So I've attained a level of mastery that many probably have not. And the reason why I say that is because I have learned how to, I would say manipulate, but to understand the industry at such a high level that can help anyone become successful in the food space. But as you know, entrepreneur skills go across any kind of industry or any kind of business. Um, so this video right here is going to be step three in my success curve. I started my success curve in 2019. I was still employed, but I wanted to build something significant. And so I created a plan that would start in 2020, that would end in 2030. And I figure I would have amassed a very successful business in 10 years. And it's possible because technology now is greater than it's ever been. There's ever been a time in history that it's easier to become rich. AI tools, technology, etc. That doesn't seem that way because you got so many people who are struggling, but it is that way. And if you're fortunate enough to have started a business 5, 6, 10 years ago, then all you got to do is apply those tools and skyrocket your success. So, anyway, I want to help as many people as I can to be able to skyrocket their success as entrepreneurs. All right. And so the other videos that I created, step one and two, they talk about the plan on to the right idea, right industry. And then we went into proving out a concept. If you can prove that your service or your product is viable, if you can find an audience, if you can't generate any kind of sales, you need to rethink the industry, the product, or the service. Um, or you just got to keep iterating until somebody likes your stuff. Hopefully that makes sense. If no one wants to buy your stuff, don't go get a EIN number and LLC. Don't wait, right? I'm a big believer is that you shouldn't have to spend any money to prove out a concept. I think that if you're the right person with the right ability to sell, or you really believe in your product or service, you should be able to sell it off the hip. I don't care if it's a book. Go write a book and then go find people that will listen to your story and buy your book. You can self-publish a book on Amazon and you can buy your book for $3 or $4 and go sell it for 20, signature for $25. That to me is proving out a concept and there's no money in other than time, a little bit of money to invest in the self-published book, and then now you got to go out and sell it. And then you can sell it and you can teach it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what am I saying? The stage of proving out a concept should not cost you much money. Now, I know people may not agree with that, and that's okay with me. I was able to sell live blue crabs off of an idea to see if there was a demand for it, and I was able to get pre orders during COVID. So much so that it financed its own way from financing a truck to a building to inventory to equipment to building a restaurant inside of a seafood market that I created. And so I went no money down. Some of you guys may be old enough to remember Carlton Sheets. He was the guy who said no money down houses back in the 60s through the 80s, something like that. Anyway, I bought into his idea, which is no money down unless you have to. And if you can attract some investor money, cool. But this is way down the line after you've had some success, you formalize your business, you're able to maybe scale, or you can see what scaling is something you can do. But in the beginning, no money in, because money can do nothing but hurt you in the beginning. because you haven't proven out your concept. You throw all this money into something and no one wants it. You throw all your money into something and it's in a dead industry. Throw all your money into something and it makes you not have this desire to iterate and make it more appealing. And so I'm a big believer in no money in, let it sell, let people continue to want it, iterate it, make it more appealing before you start to formalize your business. Hopefully this makes sense. All right, so once you have amassed enough of a demand, what you want to start doing is figuring out how you can grow your demand. This is where I think branding comes into play, right? If you got a barbecue sandwich, for example, that you really like, you like it, you love it, and people like it and they love it, now you got to put a brand together. The brand should have history. Why should I buy your barbecue sandwich? Well, hey, my dad was a grill master, barbecue guru. When I was 5 years old, I was out there putting the wood inside of the burner. I saw dad doing all these things, and all the family members loved his barbecue. And I kind of got it through his blood. I got his DNA. And so my name is Bubba. This is my barbecue sandwich. And boom. Now you got history with a name, and that's what sells. That's what sells. That's what sells. All right. Just like any brand out here that's been around for 60, 70 years, you don't even know who the owner is. You don't even know who the founder is in most of these big companies, but you do know the brand. You know the name of the actual company. And so I think that if you have identified the right product or service, it's time to start branding it and give it its own history. And if you prove the concept long enough, where it continues to pay for itself, and somewhere so that it starts paying for its own rent, lease, you know what I'm saying, things that are actual assets, I think you got some there. And then pair in a story and then pair in an actual brand, logo, identity, right? And so at this point, I think it's time for you to, after you formalize the business, create systems. You know what you've done to get here. That's why I'm a big believer in proving a concept so long that you just have to formalize. You got to go ahead and get an EIN number, LLC, bank account number, and then if it's in the food business, get set up with the health department locally, get a building, food service building, etc., and really start formalizing your business, because now you got something that you can actually start to build around, right? And so it's got to be in a sequence that makes sense. It's got to be organic. It's got to be a flow to it. It can't just be, a million miles an hour. I want to be a millionaire, and I forget all these important steps. So let's turn to the internal workings, okay? I'm a big fan of people who take the time to learn the technicals and learn the mechanics of a thing. Kobe was a technician. He loved the mechanics of a thing, right? He studied his industry. He studied his model. His model was Michael Jordan. And so he would spend hours upon hours upon hours mirroring what Mike did to make Mike successful. And so in doing all those things, he created his own system. His system was, I do this way. I get up at this time. I travel this way, right? I start my workout this way. And I think as an entrepreneur, you got to do the same thing. If your brain is not wired to think about the small, minute mechanics, then I think you're going to hurt yourself in the end. Also, I think you won't become a master of what you do. I think you're going to always be thinking about the money and what the money's going to do for you, and you forget about the process that helps everybody else around you. Falling in love with the process internally also is a leadership play. If you love your process, which means that you're going to be able to teach people your process, and they're going to be better able to follow your process when you're not around. For those who don't have a process to follow, then it's hard for those operators to get out of their business. You can't scale without having a process, which means you got to fall in love with the process that you create, and you got to be able to sell it. So externally, you are formalizing your business. Externally, you are creating systems because now you know how you got your first sale, your second sale, your third sale, more sales. And then internally, you're falling in love with the process. You are getting dopamine by every sale, every win, every time you progress any which way, come up with another pivot, another aspect of your business you add on to it, you are falling in love with the process. You're excited about it. You get excited about going to work. They can feel your energy, right? This is why the inner workings is so important, and why entrepreneurship builds the person, because you build yourself on the inside and people feel it on the outside. You're exchanging, you're transferring your energy, your excitement to other people, and they want to start to see you do well. I've got customers from 2020 that still want my product, who still talk about my product. And I can't even explain it other than I fell in love with the process. I fell in love with customers falling in love with my product. I fell in love with customers falling in love with my product. And so I can't say I do this for me. I can say I do it for other people. And that's where you want to get to. That is the gold. That is the gold when people love your product or your service because they like you, they know your story, and they want to see you win. That's important. So I'm gonna leave this video right here. Real, just a quick recap. If you've proven out your concept without a shadow of a doubt, it works. People like it, love it, and you can see a market open up that you can go after. Start to systematically create a system. You know how you got here, and so put systems in place, workers in place, processes in place, so you can replicate what you're doing every time you do it. Understand your numbers, and we'll get into numbers in a minute. And internally, fall in love with that process. Fall in love with that process, because falling in love with that process makes the energy towards your customer, your audience, and just the public in general become more fortified. It's a real thing. All right, this is Rex White. I am a food entrepreneur in the Cajun and Creole space. Been doing this since 2020. I've attained mastery because I've done 100 hours plus a week and just building operations. And now I'm getting a lot more into consulting, scaling, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But something to share, got something to share with you. So stick with me, continue to watch the videos, and more to come soon. I'll see you later. Peace out.